Mr. President, thank you. I want to use the opportunity on the Senate floor today to call to the attention what I think is an alarming proposal that would allow the Internal Revenue Service to track nearly all inflows and outflows of America's bank accounts. I heard this story, I heard this proposal while I was home in Kansas, and my reaction was, I assume this is just something on the internet, something that people are perhaps fabricating. Surely no one seriously is proposing that every transaction of $600 in one's bank account and $600 out of one bank account is something that the Internal Revenue Service should be monitoring and recording, or that records would need to be provided to the IRS with that information. It's one of those things I thought, well, that's just some crazy something that somebody's talking about, but lo and behold, unfortunately, I've learned that over the years. Sometimes my constituents have brought me things in the past to tell me this story, and it's like, I can't believe that'd be true, but let me check it out. And far too often it turns out that it really is someone's proposal in the nation's capital. Most Kansans would react to this concept by saying, I can't believe it's true, and then make sure you do something to keep it from happening. In this case, it is apparently true, and not only is it true, it's true because it's supported, it's proposed by the Biden administration. It's the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, who believes and testified that this is a good idea. It's Charles Rettig, the IRS commissioner, who believes that this is important to accomplish. It's not just somebody's idea, it's somebody who has something they have something to say that matters, that can cause it to happen, is for this. For the IRS knowing how much money a Kansan earns, that just isn't enough. How much an American earns, it isn't enough to know our income. Now the IRS wants to know how you spend that income. This is an invasion of privacy that focuses on account flows, not just on income, and it intrudes on virtually every American. The claim that this will help tax wealthy cheats. I'm all for taxing wealthy cheats, but instead, this isn't that. It gives the government the unprecedented access to nearly every working American's bank account. Rather than listening to the enormous pushback from Americans and eliminating from consideration this invasive mandate, Democrats are simply suggesting to tweak the proposal depending on the revenues needed to fund this massive tax and spend spree that's around the corner. In recent weeks, I've heard from more than 1,000 Kansans who are alarmed at this massive expansion of IRS reach and authority, this invasion of privacy. The last thing my Kansas constituents would want when it comes to their own bank account is more bureaucrats watching and dictating how they live their lives. This provision is a threat to their privacy. They see it that way, and it is. Kansas relies heavily on small-town banks and credit unions to provide rural communities and their citizens with lending services, to finance a small business expansion, to allow a family to pay for college or to buy a home. The relationship between our bankers, our credit unions, and their customers and clients is a special one. It's personal. That private relationship between a banker and their customer is one that's based upon trust. The banker no more wants to be in the middle of invading their customers' privacy. Mandating that banks report to the government their customers' account activities will significantly breach the trust that a customer, a client, has with their banker. These financial institutions are often run by just a handful of employees and are often a family operation handed down from one generation to the next. We have lots of small local banks and credit unions already knee-deep, perhaps waist-deep in red tape, something they have to deal with every day and something we've tried nearly every day to reduce or eliminate. Our bankers and credit unions spend millions of dollars to comply with the anti-money laundering policies and those often yield minimal results. This proposal would turn our banking system into an extension of the Internal Revenue Service while forcing local banks to shoulder the costs. And these costs, of course, ultimately would be paid for, guess who? The customer, the citizen. So not only would this proposal allow our privacy to be intruded upon, but we'd be paying as it happens. Unfortunately, the IRS has increasingly politicized and has a history of targeting disfavored groups and individuals, and has proven incapable of protecting taxpayers' data from leaks. Entrusting this bureaucracy, the IRS, or really any other bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., with the supervision of your personal finances is no way to close a tax gap. At a time when the American people are more wary than ever of the federal government and their agencies, this proposal will do nothing but further increase that distrust. Democrats in Congress, and particularly in the Biden administration, should prioritize strengthening the faith in the financial service, not pursuing these kind of policies that will push underbanked Americans away. Ultimately, this plan will not achieve its stated goal of increasing tax revenues. Rather, it will lead to more harassment of average Americans and those who work at their financial institutions. It's clear to me that there's an attempt here to leave no stone unturned to find every possible way to tax everyday Americans in order to fund a massive spending spree. So while we hoped that this proposal was just idle talk, something that somebody said over a cup of coffee at the local donut shop or the cafe, something that when we went to find out if there was any truth to it, we'd discover, oh no, I could tell my constituents, this isn't happening. This is just something that somebody's gossiping about. But no, it's a serious proposal by the Biden administration, and it has serious consequences to the well-being, financial, but perhaps more importantly, the privacy, something that Americans deserve, something that Americans request, and something that is already too often lacking in our lives: privacy, and in this case, privacy from the federal government. Mr. President, I yield the floor.